Games new to me. Please like and subscribe.
Hey guys, Rob here for Games New to Me. This video will not be monetized as it's about a tragedy and it is also video game related, so please bear with me. Just a tiny amount of background to today's video, and the source for this is the Washington Post. On Easter Sunday, Steve W. Stevens pulled up in his Ford Fusion on a road in East Cleveland at about 2 p.m. Sunday and then said in his video, quote, "I found somebody I'm about to kill. Quote, I'm about to kill this guy right here. He's an old dude," unquote. Stevens said as he approached Robert Godwin Sr., who was reportedly collecting aluminum cans. Quote, "Can you do me a favor?" unquote. Stevens said to Godwin before asking him to say the name Joy Lane, to which Godwin responded, "Joy Lane?" Quote, "Yeah," Stevens replied. "She's the reason why this is about to happen to you." The video showed Stevens ask Godwin how old he was, raise a gun, and pull the trigger. The camera spun around, and the picture came into focus. Godwin was on the ground. It happened in less than a minute, and authorities said the men did not know each other. That's the background I wanted to mention. Also, I'm going to have this pieces of garbage picture up during this video because he's wanted by the police, he is dangerous, and if you see him, you should get somewhere safe and call the police. I believe there's a reward on his head, but this piece of garbage has to be put away. But let's bring this around to video games, so please have a look at how CNN chose to report this story.
There is a element of this that makes it look like a video game, because if you think about video games, they're first-person shooters. People in a game, they're having a controller, the gun is in front of them, and they're firing. That is how a lot of young people experience weapons. They experience guns as video games. Unfortunately, a video like this, it has that same perspective, and how yet it is so real.
Your blood boiling yet? Yeah, mine too. So, before I lose my mind, and I'm sorry that I'm doing another rant video so soon after the previous one on Nintendo, but this has to be said. I want to read you a few short snippets from some actual research, not from clickbait, not from bullshit websites. This is actual research. From 2012, according to Science Daily, a research team at the University of Goethe in Sweden spent hundreds of hours both playing competitive online games and observing other players. Jonas Iverson, I believe that's how you say his name, one of the researchers explained. He explained that the suggested link between games and aggression is based on the notion of transfer, which means that knowledge gained in a certain situation can be used in an entirely different context. The whole idea of transfer has been central in education research for a very long time. The question of how a learning situation should be designed in order for learners to be able to use the learned material in real life is very difficult and has no clear answers. In a nutshell, we're questioning the whole gaming and violence debate, since it's not based on a real problem, but rather on some hypothetical reasoning. That's from a research paper from 2012. Okay, let's continue. Let me go to 2014 and another research paper. A new long-term study in violent video media in the U.S. could help settle the long-standing argument of whether or not violent films and video games are to blame for violence in society. The research, led by psychologist Christopher Ferguson and published in the Journal of Communication, not only found that there was no link between violent media and behavior, but also questioned the methodology of previous studies suggesting the two were related. In other words, once again, no link was found. Let's move on, because why the hell not? 2015. Playing violent video games is no more likely to be damaging to your young child's behavior than those considered harmless, an Oxford University study suggests. It concluded that fears that a generation of young people who are growing up with the development impaired by exposure to violent video games are no more likely to be borne out than previous, quote, moral panics, unquote, over television and other media, which, if we go far back enough, we're talking about comic books too, because God knows the comic books were going to just create a whole society of heathens and monsters and murderers and rapists. Okay. Fine. That was from 2015. Let's go to this year, March 8th, 2017. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology by Dr. Gregory Sitzik of the Hanover Medical School and his colleagues investigated the long-term effects of playing violent video games. Quote, the research in question arises first from the fact that the popularity and the quality of video games are increasing, and second, we were confronted in our clinical work with more and more patients with problematic and compulsive video game consumption, unquote, explains Sitzik. The line between playing violent video games and antisocial behavior, such as increased aggression and decreased empathy, is hotly debated. In a recent study, the long-term effects of playing violent video games were investigated, and this study found that empathy is not blunted by playing such games in long term. So once again, another goddamn research paper that shows there is no correlation between violence and violent video games. Just like there's no correlation between watching Tom and Jerry and smacking your neighbor in the head with a frying pan. Nobody is that stupid. People are able to distinguish between reality and fantasy. The list goes on and on and on. There are barely any studies that have showed a direct correlation between violent video games and real-life aggression or negative side effects. The few and far between studies that did show correlation can easily be attributed to statistical error. Simply put, you do enough studies with enough different groups of people, eventually you'll come across a few outliers that buck the trend. But far and away, the list of studies that show no link between crime and violent video games far outweighs the number that do by a massive margin. I just discussed studies of various types that talk about violent video games having no link to real-life violence stretching from 2012 to 2017. That's 5 years of various studies by various institutions that all point to the same thing. There is no correlation. So that brings me to you, CNN. So what the hell is CNN talking about? What are you talking about, CNN? Why are you trying to push a tired and disproven narrative that violent video games are somehow responsible for this animal, this savage, this human piece of excrement, this disgusting and vile creature's actions on Easter Sunday when he shot an unwitting victim in the street is somehow connected to video games? I watched the video of the killing. I strongly recommend you do not watch this. It's painful to watch, and this piece of garbage even gives his reason, as twisted as it is, for the killing, and it had nothing, zero, nada to do with violent video games or video games of any type. CNN, you guys are swimming in today's waters where the term fake news is being tossed around like so much confetti. Stories like this one do not help your case. Do you really want to be lumped in with the Wall Street Journal and their idiotic, stupid, moronic clickbait about PewDiePie being a racist Nazi? What a joke CNN has become! If this is what we should expect as journalism, the self-titled, quote, most trusted name in news, Jesus, you guys are a joke! I don't know how you can even keep playing that tired and absurd meme of yours anymore. Right, the most trusted name in news, yet you try to force an agenda that nobody with any credibility takes seriously anymore. At least nobody without an axe to grind and a clearly defined agenda. You're making yourself look foolish. I am disgusted with your handling of this tragic story, and this is a horrific story. Why don't you focus on the actual victim and the actual monster that committed this heinous crime? What? It's not sensational enough for you what happened? Is your audience so old that they will tune in to hear about how those evil video games contributed to being the, quote, driving force behind this execution? Is an old and shrinking audience really the ones you should be trying to cater to? God damn it, CNN! This sort of bias is why traditional media is losing respect, credibility, and viewers. There's a reason I've stopped watching your news broadcasts years ago. No, let me emphasize, I definitely did not switch to Fox News, as they are worse than you are, CNN. Pathetic. just simply pathetic. It took me 5 minutes on Google to find all the accredited sources I needed to disprove your biased and clickbaity reporting style, and I'm not a reporter. I'm certainly not a journalist, and yet it was so easy for an amateur like me to just destroy the undertone of your reporting. CNN, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You're acting more like a tabloid than an actual news source. Worse than that, you're throwing up distractions and smokescreens that could potentially help this criminal scumbag who murdered a man, executed him in the street without warning. Yet you're giving him cover with your idiotic reports speculating about violent video games being what is truly to blame here. I am disgusted by you, and that's all I'm going to say, because if I keep talking, it's going to turn into a string of profanities and descriptions of what you should do to yourselves. Anyway, guys, sorry about the rant again today. This is not a rant channel. This is not a new feature. It's just two things that blew up close to each other that I just had to speak out about because it was ridiculous. I am heated right now. I am going to need to cool down. But by all means, please look at the picture of the savage who actually committed this murder. It was not violent video games. He is just a monster. That's all there is to it. Look at his face, find pictures, spread it around Facebook, let everyone know what he looks like, share the description, because this piece of garbage has to be behind bars. Once again, really sorry about the rant. I don't want to make a habit of this. It just is what it is. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it immensely. To my subscribers, you guys are the greatest, and I really mean that. And I hope you're able to help get the word out there about this guy, this piece of trash. Just complete trash. And let's get him behind bars as quickly as possible. If you just clicked on this video, if you just stumbled across me or this channel, won't you consider clicking that candy-like subscribe button and give me a chance to win you over full time? I don't rant all the time, and most of my videos are about, just video games and interesting stuff. But please, give me a chance to win you over. You'll not only be joining a truly fantastic community of gamers, I mean it, a truly fantastic community. You'll not only have my gratitude, but most importantly for you, you will always be notified whenever a new video goes up on the channel. This is Rob for Games New to Me saying, I hate CNN's reporting, but let's focus here. This piece of garbage needs to be behind bars. Let's put him there. Until next time, guys, be good to each other, and I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.